Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I have another special guest. I am being joined by actress Dierdre Lenihan, who played Daisy Garner in 6 episodes of The Waltons. Please welcome Dierdre. Well, welcome, Deirdre, and thank you so much for agreeing to come and chat with me and all of our longtime viewers and fans.
Yes, I'm so glad you found me.
Well, obviously, I'm sure viewers recognize you as I do immediately as having played Daisy Garner for 6 episodes of The Waltons. So we could go back to the beginning of that. And I always like to sort of touch on how it came about for you as an actress, how your audition was, or that process of the casting went for you initially.
Well, it was a little different than other castings. I had come out of New York to do a TV 3-camera sitcom called Needles and Pens. And that was in 74, which isn't too far away from when I got the Walton job. So the show lasted 14 weeks and I was out of work. And the old adage in Hollywood that if your show goes down, you're out of work for a year. Mm. And it was almost a year. And I got a call with the offer of the part.
Oh.
So unusual. It's not happened ever again. But, and I was delighted. It was just fabulous. I thought I was finished, washed up. And I got this wonderful role that started with the marathon. Just a wonderful episode.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that was quite an episode. I have had Ralph Sinensky, who directed that episode, who lives actually not too far from me, and he's now 101. And his memory is remarkable, the stories and things, the detail, and he has created a wonderful blog about all of the work that he directed for decades. And so I chatted with him at one point. We did a Zoom, and one of the shows we talked about was the marathon. And, he talked about what all of being able to make that happen and in a really limited space with all that dance work. My goodness.
As I remember, it was in one of the sound stages that they had made to look like, and it could have been a barn. So it was perfect. A sound stage is a barn. And it looked so authentic to me. And of course, your costumers were wonderful. Mm. They did an amazing job of recreating being there. And once they do that and the scenery is perfect, you're there. And I met Richard Thomas the day that we shot. And we got along very well. We're both New Yorkers, and we grew up on the streets of New York. And we were both on the brink of marriage. He with Alma, and myself with Jim. So we had a lot to talk about. And as a New Yorker and as a theater goer, because he had been in theater too, we just took the dance sequences as if we were on stage. And truly, people dancing in a marathon were on stage because people came to watch this horrifying event and see. It was like a boxing match.
Yeah.
So I was shocked to know that Richard was 5 years younger than I was. And I think Alma also was older than Richard. So we had a lot of talk about older women and how wonderful he was with them. And we just created this mood It was fabulous. And of course, the director was there to catch it.
Was it as grueling to shoot all of those days of dance as it looked like was created in the episode?
I think your wonderful director made it that way, in a kind way. I mean, we were fed, but being in this barn and having the music go on and off and having people drop out, it was pretty much like really doing it.
Was that sort of done sequentially because it was all in the same set? Were you able to do that?
Yeah, we didn't go. Once they did that set, they left that set. I mean, it was probably too expensive to leave up and taking up too much room. Yeah, that it was a day. And it may have been a day and a half because this is a very long time ago for me.
I just remember that part of the episode being seemed like a long and important piece of the episode that it really was that. So I thought, you might have spent 2 or 3 days dancing endlessly to shoot it.
Well, it could have seemed like 2 or 3 days.
Every day felt like 2 or 3 days, I bet.
But it was wonderful because Richard and I got along and we had a lot to talk about.
Great. And did you have a dance background? Of course, Richard's parents were ballet dancers. He grew up in the dance world.
I tried after college to teach myself ballet, and I went to Carnegie Hall and I studied for 3 years and got on point as an old 20-year-old, I have to say. That's the only experience I had in dance. I could listen to music and make the music help me fudge what I didn't know. Richard was very good, very easy to follow.
I always loved when I got to dance with him in episodes because he does have such great musicality and rhythm, and he is just innately a good dancer. So I always found that a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to do it for hours and hours.
But that worked.
Yeah. What do you remember about the character of Daisy from the 6 episodes, and that, because the arc was kind of spread out over a few seasons?
Quite a few seasons, yes. I'm trying to think. I think the first one was 74 and the last one was 78. I didn't know where the character was going. I'm not sure Earl Hamner had actually decided where the character was going. But whatever it was, it led one of us to New York. And I think the last show Richard did was The Revelation. And he was headed, to London, but he was headed out. So my character around him, and I also didn't know until The Revelation that I had had a child.
Might you have played anything differently if that was something you knew about the character?
That's hard to say. If I was a method actress, if I knew enough, if I was smart enough, I think I would have let some of that in. But as it was, I just saw Daisy, at least in the first show, as ready to get out of here no matter what happened. And I could have added some nuance had I known that what I was leaving was a lot more than a small town.
I imagine that's the case. I know, because as you said, in the marathon, you weren't married yet, so you didn't have children yet personally. Mm-hmm. I know for myself, when I got married on the show and I had John Curtis, and I was not myself a parent. And I know for myself as an actress, when I had my son, when I approached roles then that were supposed to be a parent, I was aware as an actor, how different that felt to me with that personal knowledge, how much more invested I was, how much of it was just real as opposed to acting. So sometimes that feels more different as an actor, is my experience, than necessarily shows on screen, but it sure felt different to me.
Well, for me, being at that time and having my first child, Richard and I had our children around the same time. My problem was, one, nursing, two, the guilt of being away from my child, which it did happen in the next episodes of I think I'm in New York and I'm dancing with Richard and I'm feeling that I should be home. So I have always felt, and as I told you in my email, that I left acting voluntarily because I felt that I didn't have the creativity to be a good performer and a good parent. People do it so beautifully. I couldn't figure it out.
I understand. It is a very difficult balance. Michael Learned has talked about how difficult it was for her to be away from her 3 boys when she was doing the series. And here she was being this wonderful mother to all these children who were like second children to her, but feeling the guilt of her 3 that were at home, and that she wasn't there to fix their meals, and sometimes wasn't there to put them to bed, or was gone before they got up in the morning. And it is it can be such a heartbreaking thing as a parent. So you did then, by the time Daisy's character we knew that she had Melissa, you already were a parent. So you were coming from that understanding of that.
Right. And I think there was one episode where I was holding a baby.
Yes.
And
John Curtis, you held in episodes. Yeah. I remember that because I just watched it recently.
I'll have to look that one up too. And the director said, "You're paying too much attention to that baby. You just put it on the hip and you walk away." But I was really into that baby. So obviously I hadn't worked out a lot of things. I was just being reactive.
When we filmed the final reunion movie in 1996, where my character had become a nurse, become a doctor, I was now supposed to be an obstetrician. And I delivered John Boy and Janet's twins. My son was on set with me because he was, I think, 10 or 12 weeks old when we filmed that. So it was quite something. And I was so grateful for that, because as I was dealing with these infants that we were filming with, as they were supposed to be newly born, and they were so small, and I was so grateful that my own son was like, I understand this size, little person. And so I was very comfortable handling them, which I felt grateful for, because I felt like it made that so much more believable that as a doctor, I would have that comfort level. And if I didn't, I would have been struggling to go, let me make this look like it's easy for me.
Right.
So the marathon was the first one. And then the next one was the achievement, where John Boy first goes to New York and is going to decide if he's going to move there. He goes to find out what happened to his book that he had sent to a publisher, and he comes across you in New York. Dancing, of course, yes. So that finished up, and that, of course, was his last episode of his initial 5-year commitment to the show.
See, I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
I know we were talking as we were dancing again about, do you want more children? And Richard very wonderfully said to me, it's really up to Alma. So, and I thought that was very respectful that he just didn't throw out he wanted children. And of course, a few years later, when he had triplets, it was amazing.
Yes. He has a total between his and his current wife, Georgiana, had 2, and then they had 1 together. So he collectively has 7 children, just like the Waltons.
Right. And it's art following reality, following art.
Yeah. I want to thank Deirdre for joining me for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. I will be back with more of my chat with Deirdre soon. Thanks for watching.